demographics, life as a nomad is extremely difficult in Mongolia. Nomadic families often have fewer kids. Having a bunch of young children can take a lot of time away from hunting, which is necessary for survival out in the Mongolian fields. Large families also require more food to be on the dinner table, something that isn't always abundant when you're hunting for every meal yourself. With that in mind, Mongolian families have traditionally been very small, adding to the extremely sparsely populated country. But we've been focusing a lot on the nomads of the country. Why hasn't the capital and the largest city, Ulaanbaatar, been growing rapidly like its neighbors to the south, China? After all, China is the most populated country in the world, and cities not too far from Mongolia like Beijing have a population of over 20 million people. Well, a big difference between Beijing and Ulaanbaatar is that many of the people living in Ulaanbaatar don't have access to modern amenities. For example, more than 60% of the residents here do not have access to plumbing. Instead, these Mongols rely on outhouses to go to the bathroom and communal wells for fresh drinking water. Additionally, 20% of Mongols living in Ulaanbaatar don't even have access to electricity. These are mostly the less fortunate residents that have to live on the outskirts of the city. These residents living on the outskirts mainly stay in what's called a yurt or a gur, which is essentially a portable circular home. Yurts have been the primary style of homes in Central Asia and Mongolia for thousands of years. These yurts typically house anywhere between 5 to 15 people and can be taken down or put up in just a matter of an hour. Most Mongols living in these yurts heat them up by using a wood stove inside. These wood stoves typically sit in the middle of the yurt and have a long chimney that goes through the ceiling, releasing smoke out into the sky. Because these Mongols use coal in these stoves to not only cook their meals but also to heat their homes, this leads to a high level of fumes being released out into Ulaanbaatar. In fact, so many fumes are released that Ulaanbaatar actually has a growing air quality problem. This air quality problem has become a major concern, where Ulaanbaatar now has some of the worst air quality in the world. When the temperatures get extremely cold in the winter, this forces the residents of Ulaanbaatar to fire up their stoves inside their yurts and burn a lot of wood and coal. In the winter, this extremely cold air sinks into the valley of Ulaanbaatar and ends up making it extremely difficult for the pollution to escape. These toxic fumes get trapped in the valley and end up creating a major smog problem in the city. Less fortunate Mongols on the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar who can't even afford wood and coal end up burning plastic bottles, rubber tires, and anything they can get their hands on to keep their families warm. Babies and young children are especially vulnerable to these toxic fumes, given their small lungs need to breathe more rapidly than adults, and their immune systems are not fully developed yet. Pneumonia is now the second leading cause of death for children under 5 in Mongolia. Also, children who live in the city of Ulaanbaatar are also recorded to have 40% lower lung function than those kids living out in the countryside. Even if you have good money and are living in the more modern downtown part of Ulaanbaatar, you're still in the middle of all the air pollution, something that's impossible to escape in the city. Another factor leading to this pollution is the increase in car traffic. From 2005 to 2018, the number of cars in the city rose from just 75,000 to in 2018 more than 530,000. Many of these cars are old and don't have very clean emission systems. The government of Mongolia has been taking steps to try and limit the air pollution in the city, such as moving many of the Mongols living in the yurts into apartments with proper heating systems. Very few of these Mongols were actually able to move though, considering the banks of Mongolia did not view them as creditworthy. Other efforts have been made, such as supplying these Mongols with electric heaters and air filtration systems, but it will likely still be many years before this pollution gets under control. Mongolia is a very resource-rich country where they have an abundance of coal, copper, gold, and iron ore. When these metals are mined from the ground, this also contributes to the air pollution that's covering the city of Ulaanbaatar. With these worsening conditions in Ulaanbaatar, not many people are looking to move to the country. Emigration is now larger than immigration in Mongolia, meaning more people are leaving than coming. The number of new immigrants is normally just a couple thousand each year, mainly coming from either China or South Korea. On the other hand, Mongols leaving the country typically are made up of educated and young skilled people looking for better wages and a better quality of life. A high percentage of Mongols end up studying abroad, given countries like China, South Korea, and Japan generally have better education systems. In fact, this large portion of land in northern China is actually known as Inner Mongolia. Following World War II, the People's Republic of China acquired this land and now own Inner Mongolia, officially incorporating the land with China, but also recognizing its distinct Mongolian population. Today, there's actually more ethnic Mongols living in Inner Mongolia than there are Mongols living in the country of Mongolia itself. This is mainly in part to the much better living conditions of Inner Mongolia and also a slightly warmer climate. Another country where hardly anyone is moving to is on the other side of the Pacific Ocean and is known as Venezuela. One of the reasons why hardly anyone is moving here is because this country is under intense scrutiny for their recent election where socialist leader Nicolas Maduro supposedly won. You can find out why this election result was likely fake in this video right here.